et que les travaux des uns, évidemment, nourrissent ceux de leurs successeurs. Donc je suis bien confiante que ce qui a été fait, notamment dans le domaine du numérique, sur Charles V et Charles VI, ça a utilisé les travaux antérieurs, mais que là aussi, c'est un gage de fruits pour la longue durée. Donc je terminerai simplement en disant que toutes nos bibliothèques ont des personnalités différentes. C'est encore plus vrai pour les bibliothèques nationales. Elles ont grandi dans des pays qui ont eu des histoires politiques, des histoires spirituelles, des histoires socio-économiques également, différentes. Et pourtant, elles ont beaucoup de choses en commun. Ça a été un grand plaisir, un peu challenging issue aussi, de travailler avec la British Library, Scot. Mais en tout cas, on est heureux de fêter aujourd'hui l'aboutissement de ce programme et très désireux de trouver de nouvelles idées de collaboration. Pas forcément sur le numérique, pas forcément, peut-être très prospective. On a commencé à esquisser des idées et je suis sûre qu'au cours de ces 2 jours, nous aurons l'occasion de bâtir ensemble de nouveaux projets et nous en serons très heureux. Je vous remercie. I suppose.
Maybe, do I need to, where is it?
C'est bon, je crois.
Oui. Merci Isabelle, merci à tous de la Bibliothèque nationale de France. And I'm going to speak in English. Yes, thank you very much for all your collaboration. There have been challenges, but I think we've won through to the end. We've just about made it to the final line. So, and thank you also to my colleagues, many colleagues at the British Library, without whom this would not have been possible. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to set the project in the context of the broader context of the library's manuscript collections. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then a little bit about work that we've been doing to make them more accessible, both to researchers and to the general public. I'm actually going to talk a little bit broader than medieval. I'm going to talk about what we call the ancient, medieval, and early modern manuscripts section at the British Library. So the chronology is quite a broad one. It covers about 5 millennia from the 3rd century BC through to 1600. I think you'll recognize many of the items in front of you. The manuscripts as a whole are, as Kristian has referred to, are of outstanding cultural value. They're part of a shared heritage. They're a key part of that heritage, not only of the UK, but Europe and beyond. They're also of great critical importance to researchers in a very wide range of fields. It's one of the distinctive things, I think, about medieval manuscripts. You have to know about an awful lot of subjects and disciplines to study them properly. And of course, they come, as this slide shows, in many different formats and intended for many different purposes. They all have sort of personal stories to tell. They have rich individual histories, and some of them, the stories that lie behind them, are otherwise unrecorded. Without them, we would not know many things. And there'll be a quiz afterwards as to who recognized all of the items there. So look carefully. Well, we stand on the shoulders of giants, of course, and here are 3 giants responsible for the foundations of what was then the British Museum collections, founded in 1753. From the left, on the left you see Sir Robert Cotton, whose nearly 1,000 manuscripts formed part of the foundation. Down in the bottom right you see Sir Hans Sloane, President of the Royal Society, and whose will essentially forced the British government to do the right thing and found a national institution that would better preserve its heritage. And from him came around 4,500 manuscripts. And not to be forgotten, one of the Harleys, Robert Harley and Edward Harley, the successive Earls of Oxford, from whom around 7,500 manuscripts came. So together, a really strong foundation. Subsequently, many other collections and individual manuscripts were added, amounting to several tens of thousands within the collections, both given and purchased, and continue to be acquired, as you'll see at the end of this talk. And this is the collection is largely the result of private collecting and what I call judicious selection by librarians. So it's not just an amalgamation, it's actually a very consciously created collection or series of collections. Now, my little map here, which I've shown on another occasion, some of my colleagues will recognize this, I think demonstrates very vividly, at least in the field of illuminated manuscripts, the very strong European dimension of the British Library's collection of medieval manuscripts. We got off to a very good start, particularly with the Harleian collection, which had phenomenal strengths, and I think several of those there you see are from that collection. However, one of the core strengths is undoubtedly our manuscripts of British origin, and it's thanks to that that we've been able to put on the current Anglo-Saxon Kingdoms exhibition, which has been referenced already, though it has to be said that European connections are also a core theme, and of course it is totally unmissable, and it only is on until the 19th of February. And a big thank you to Claire, who's sitting in the audience, having survived getting through to that. And if you want to find out more, there's a lot on the web, but there's also a fantastic exhibition catalogue, which has been done not on our own, but in collaboration with some of the most important leading academic experts in the field. And it's quite a sort of landmark in research terms, as well as a great public showcase. What we like to do with exhibitions is to create a broader program around them that achieves various other things. And you can see here, one of those was the Polonsky Foundation England and France project, but it wasn't the only one. We've also had an extensive program of digitization of our Anglo-Saxon manuscripts, conservation, which has been alluded to as a critical part of what we need to do. It's part of our stewardship. Fragmentarium, focus on fragments, Anglo-Saxon fragments. Also bringing on the next generation through a collaborative doctoral award, so that's essentially a PhD done in collaboration with the library. It's part of a broader network, which both Claire and Charlotte were involved in, focused on insular manuscripts, and as our sort of offering to the general public, and actually to the much younger generation as well, to school, a part of our Discovering Literature program focused on medieval, and you can see those two very contrasting publics addressed, one on the right for schools and younger undergraduates, but also for those of a certain age as well. And then something there really hardcore for researchers, really cutting-edge digital humanities research project, Fragmentarium, that several of us have been involved in, and really pushing the boundaries of what's technically possible and interesting. The medieval manuscripts, well, actually the ancient and medieval part, are also involved in our next exhibition, a very different type of exhibition, but I think a lot in there for everyone. As you can see, writing is probably still very important to us, and one of the questions is what our future relationship will be to writing. I have some writing here, but it's one of the very rare occasions where I do actually write or scribble. And you can see that the range of what it seeks to showcase is very wide, but it's one of the things we can do with that great collection that the library holds. So right across 5 millennia and 5 continents, it's quite a range. And overlapping with that is our little contribution to the anniversary of the death of Leonardo. I know there's going to be a big exhibition in this very city as well, and there will be many across the world, but we are focusing on Leonardo's focus on motion, bodies in motion, water, his mind also continually in motion, and that will have at its centerpiece one of the library's great treasures, the Codex Arundel, one of the great Leonardo notebooks. And further on, a little bit further on, into 2020, we're going to focus to the later end of the spectrum, so into the early modern period. There's no anniversary here, it's just something we wanted to do. This very interesting and often tense relationship between individuals and indeed two parts of the still United Kingdom. So I think I can say that between Scotland and England. And actually, we are seeking to get away from the glitz of Gloriana and actually dig into the sort of darker underbelly of that and the religious tensions, the political tensions, not just between England and France, but between England and the continent. So quite a probing exhibition, I think. And again, what we've tried to do there is to create a program around that, in this case focused on 16th century English manuscripts, part of which feeds into a program that Kristian leads that is sort of seeking to strategize our digitization program and ensure that certain gaps which are developed are actually covered, and strangely Tudor manuscripts were one of those gaps, and so we're filling that in with some good things there, and also tying that to a philanthropic program. So these two projects together actually delivering a lot of very important research materials that accompany the exhibition. And at the very, very early end of the chronological spectrum, we're also working hard to reveal our collection of papyri, our Greek and Latin papyri, principally Greek, but also including some Latin papyri and ostraca as well, one of our more ignored collections that involves recataloguing, preservation, digitization and online publication. And it draws very, very strongly on international partnerships and collaborative projects. And also what you see there is our IIIF capable viewer, which enables a very close comparison of papyri, which, as those of you who know about papyri, is a very critical part of that study. And finally, we don't just sit on our laurels. We seek very selectively and strategically to add to the collections, and we were very pleased in the summer, well, late summer, to have acquired the manuscript that you see here, the Mostyn Psalter Hours, one of the few manuscripts from this period that's securely localizable to London, and from the late 13th and early 14th century. And we have various other things in view, but that's our latest. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.